All right, what's up, fancy footballers? Back again. New year, new league, new me. A couple changes I want to go over first before we get into the draft. First, league name is now Double Rainbow, referring to Aaron Rodgers' Hail Marys from last season. There are now 10 teams instead of 12. Um, we had a 10-team league back in 2014, and it worked pretty smoothly, so I expect more of the same for this year. Also, you'll notice that there are no more divisions, just one big 10-team group. This will not affect the playoffs, however. So, just like last year, 6 teams will make the playoffs, with the top 2 teams getting first round byes. Um, each round of the playoffs is 1 week long. Um, and it will start week 13 and end week 16 with the championship round. Um, the payment has also changed from $50 down to $25. Because of this, there will be no weekly payout, um, but scoring the most points each week will matter, and I will discuss that in a different video. Um, but the payout will be money back for third place, some higher amount of money for second place, and obviously the highest amount of money for first place. Still have to figure out the pay scale. So that's money, teams, divisions, league name. And the only other thing that has changed is the scoring. So last season we had half point PPR, where each reception got you half of a point. Now we are up to a full point PPR. This won't affect the draft much from last year, as you still want to find players who catch the ball a lot or get the ball thrown their way a lot. But just keep this in mind when you are doing research about the draft and who to draft, as not all lists are PPR lists, and we are also a keeper league, and not all lists reflect rankings for keeper leagues. So just keep those things in mind when you're doing your own research. You also may have noticed these decimal points here. We have switched to decimal scoring. Doing this in order to decrease the risk of ties and to ensure that you get the points you deserve. So a 99-yard receiving day, which would have gotten you 9 points in the past, will now get you 9.9 points. This will look a little weird at first, but I think it is the best way to ensure that the teams who are supposed to win will win. So what about the draft? Draft. So here's the draft board as it looks so far, with who you have told me you are going to keep. The draft will start tomorrow at noon. Tomorrow, Friday, August 12th, 12 p.m. noon. The draft will start at this point. The keepers that you have here will be locked in. So you will not be able to change this after tomorrow, Friday, August 12th at noon, which is also when the draft will begin. Before I talk about the draft, I will mention keepers again, because I feel like there still might be a little confusion on how keepers work. So the reason why you are not allowed to keep players drafted in the first 2 rounds from last season is because in order to keep them for this season, it would cost you a pick 2 rounds higher than the round in which you drafted them the previous year. Basically, what that means is, since I drafted DeAndre Hopkins in the 4th round last season, I would have to take him in the 2nd round this season if I want to keep him. So I can't keep my 2nd round pick from last year because there is no 0th round and there is no negative 1st round, so I can't keep my 1st round pick from last year. So that's why it is the way it is, 2 rounds higher than the year before. So if this was unclear to you before and you would like to change your keepers, or if you understood this but still want to make some adjustments, you have until tomorrow, Friday, August 12th at 12 noon to make your final adjustments to your keeper list. I have these written down, so don't try to change it after that, because I will unchange it back to what it was, just out of fairness to everyone else. We would like to stick to this deadline. So the reason why I chose to do an offline draft is because of this keeper rule. ESPN keepers will just have you have those players on the team, but it won't have you select those players in a certain round. So the easiest way to keep track of which round a person should go in was to do it offline. So because we're doing offline, instead of having 90 seconds between pick like it would be in a normal draft, it is now 12 hours. So after I make my first selection tomorrow, Friday, August 12th at 12 noon, the next person, which is will have until Saturday, August 13th at 12 a.m. midnight to make his selection. So that's pretty much how the draft will work. So if I wanted to take Brandon Marshall with my first round pick, I would go to my name, go to round 1, type in Brandon Marshall, press enter, he's locked in. I would go back to this one, hit the whole row, double click it, delete the row so he's gone from this list. And then I would head over to Facebook and I would say something like this: Will, it is now your turn to pick, or Will, you're up next. Something along those lines, just so that the person who is next knows that they are now on the clock and it is their turn to make their selection. The NFL season begins September 8th. So hopefully this 12-hour in between pick thing won't take too long, and we'll be able to finish the draft before the season starts. If it looks like we won't, I will adjust the amount of time in between picks. But yeah, so that's how that'll work for now. You are able to sort this list. If you click on this little arrow here, you can sort A to Z or Z to A. Doing so will give you the list of receivers in order of how they appear on the list, not alphabetically. So Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, Odell Beckham are first in terms of receivers, and Eric Rodgers, whoever the fuck that is last. Same with tight ends. Gronk is first. Richard Rodgers is last. Same with running backs, same with quarterbacks, same with defenses. If you do choose to sort, please just undo so it goes back to looking like this for when the next person comes to select their next pick. Just like on ESPN drafts, you have to have one of everything, which includes, I think, 2 running backs and 2 receivers, but you need at least 1 quarterback, 1 tight end, 1 defense, and 1 kicker before you leave the draft. So don't try to draft 16 receivers because that's not going to fly. So in terms of figuring out who goes next, so obviously there are some keepers locked in. So just like on ESPN, it will be a snake draft, meaning that I will pick in round 1, then Will, then Boone, then Paul, then Reem, then Mike H, then KO, then Mike S, then Steve, then Lyle. Lyle's the last pick of round 1, and he will also be the first pick of round 2. And then it will go back down this way, like a snake. So be sure you're paying attention to who's already filled in the keeper spot. So after Boone picks in round 2, Will get skipped, I will get skipped, and then it will go back down to me to begin round 3. And then Will skipped, and then over to Boone. So when you're on the Facebook part where you're saying who goes next, make sure that it's the correct person that's going next. So that's that. When entering names into here, I'd ask that you enter the person's full name and not nicknames. Obviously, most people know that Gronk is Rob Gronkowski, but just in case someone doesn't, entering their full name would avoid confusion and help the draft go as smoothly as possible. So I ask that you please take the extra bit of time to write out the player's full name when entering them into this spreadsheet draft board screen thingy. What else? Oh, there's also a search function. So if you press Control F or Command F for Max, you can search for players. So over here, I want to find out if Aaron Rodgers was drafted, so I'll say Aaron. There's no Aarons in there. So I'll go back to this one, Aaron. There he is at number 35. I might want to pick him, and now I know he's available. So that's just an easy way to double check if players are there. There are some players who you may want who are not on the list. I wasn't about to add every player in the NFL in here. So I know, for example, Mark Sanchez is not in this list. But if you wanted to draft him, you would obviously skip the step in which you would delete the row. You wouldn't do that because he wouldn't be in this spreadsheet. You would just jump right to this one, and you would type Mark Sanchez, and that would be your pick. So it would work the same, except you would just skip the step where you are removing them from this list. This is also available mobilely through the app called Google Sheets. Google Sheets. You can do all the same things you can do on a computer. Computer, I think, is the best way to use this, but obviously, within that 12 hours, when it's your turn to pick, you may not be near a computer. So you can do it through mobile. If for whatever reason the 12 hours goes by and you have not made your selection, I will just auto pick it for you based on whoever's next on the list. So, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because, I mean, there's a lot of good players early on at least. So, auto pick will happen if it takes longer than 12 hours for you to make your selection. And I think that is it. So thank you all for watching and joining again for another year of fantasy football. I wish you all good luck and hope that it's another good year.